English is all about context. I am sure you remember from your English lessons at school, we have hundreds of words that sound the same in English but have different meanings. Okay, maybe that's a slight exaggeration, but definitely a lot of words that sound the same but have very different meanings. You figure out their meanings based on the context, based on the rest of the sentence that the speaker gives you. For example, here and here, stare and stare. How do you know if I am telling you I am here or I can hear you? Well, you can tell from the context of the sentence. I'm using am or can, so you figure out which version of here I am intending to use. Or stare and stare. Am I telling you it's rude to stare, or am I telling you get off the stair? You can only tell by the context of the sentence, not the word itself. So with that in mind, what I wanted to go through today is a few groups of words in the English language that have a very similar meaning. Not the same words, but a very similar meaning with only very subtle, very slight, very minor differences. Verbs that can often easily be confused by non-native speakers, but for native speakers there is a clear right or wrong way to use them, and this is just by context of the sentence. Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm a business English teacher. I work with students who are at an intermediate to advanced level. So if that is you and you are either trying to improve your professional business English or just want to improve, so you are C1, C2 level, definitely subscribe and check out all of the interesting videos I have on my channel. Now, there's no particular name for the words I'm going to go through. Usually when I make a video, I will say absolute adjectives or conditionals or clauses, but there's no name for these. These are just words that I have noticed my students mix up often, and I think it would be helpful for you to recognize the differences in these words. As I'm going through them, if you notice any other words that you often confuse or don't quite understand the difference, write them in the comments. I will be very interested to see what other words there are that I have missed, but maybe need to be added to a video like this. These both technically mean the same thing. You are acquiring something new or something that you previously didn't have. You are receiving something. But with get, we use it more with a physical object, item, thing. You are gaining something, an object, a thing. So for example, I will get new shoes. I will get a promotion. Okay, a promotion isn't a physical thing, but the promotion, the noun, is something you receive. I will get a new job. I will get a haircut on the weekend. Whereas become is more talking about a change that you make. Your situation, your circumstance is changing in some way. So if I get new shoes, I will become a runner. If I get a promotion, I will become better at my job. If I get a new house, I will become happier, for example. A really good example to show the difference between these two is any certificate or achievement you have received in your life. So I get a university degree. I get it. But I become a university degree holder. Or let's say you do a degree in marketing. I get a degree in marketing, but I become qualified to work in marketing. I get a medical degree, but I become a qualified doctor. So my circumstance is changing. I am becoming something new. If he gets the new job, he will become happier. So if he gets this thing, his state will change. He will become happier. Make and do. Now, when you make something, you are referring to the outcome, the end product. And when you do something, you're talking about the action, but both of these can be used in similar ways and in similar sentences. The understanding is just a little different. So I make artwork, but I do painting. I make cakes, but I do cake making or baking. I make English teaching videos, but I do video creation. I make a presentation at work, but I do the presentation. So I am doing the action of the presentation, but making the presentation is the action of making it, the outcome. So with make, you're focusing on the end product, and with do, you're focusing on the action of doing something. But of course, they both kind of mean the same thing. They both mean you do, create, act, say something that creates, does, forms something else. There is a product, a result of your actions. But when we use them in a sentence, make focuses on the outcome and do focuses on the action. This next one, a lot of my students struggle with. Say, talk, and speak. Now, of course, all of these are the action of sound coming out of your mouth, out of your throat. Your vocal cords are doing something and noise is coming out, but they have slightly different meanings based on context. Now, talk is the action of having a conversation with someone. I was talking to your mum. I will talk to the teacher. I talked to my manager. My friend talked to me on the weekend. It's almost like an overview of what's happening. You are saying something, the other person is saying something, there's a conversation happening. Talk is more informal as well. So I talk to a friend, talk to a colleague, talk to a manager, talk to a client. It's more informal. Speak is a little more formal. So I will speak to the manager. It's a bit more formal than talk. But the other focus is when you use the word talk, there's this idea, this feeling that you're focusing on what was said, the words that were said. Whereas when you talk about speak, it's more like you're focusing on the person communicating, the person saying those words. So look at these two examples. I was talking to a friend, or I was speaking with my manager. I was talking to a friend suggests you're then going to say something else. What did that friend say? I was talking to a friend and they told me that. Whereas I was speaking to a manager and the outcome of the conversation was because my manager was saying something to me and they gave me this information. There's not a big difference here. You can use them interchangeably in most situations, but there are a couple of situations where you cannot use them interchangeably. So for example, we don't use talk when talking about foreign languages. You don't say I talk English, you say I speak English, because you're focusing on the ability to say something, not what is said. We don't use speak to focus on conversation. So you wouldn't say they can speak and get to know each other, or I want you to meet my friend and speak to him. We would be more likely to say they will talk and get to know each other. I want you to meet my friend and talk to him. So talk is more focused on the things you say, and speak is more focused on the person saying them, or the action of saying something, but not necessarily the words said. And say and said, of course, said is the past tense of say. This is almost like a filler word to explain that this person said something. This person, words came out of their mouth and something was said by them. So say and said focuses on the words said, but also the person saying them. Hear and listen. I hear this one said incorrectly a lot. Hear is more of an event and listen is more of an action. So they both mean for sound to go into your ears. But for example, if you went to a music festival, you wouldn't say, I listened to a music festival. You would say, on the weekend, I heard music at a music festival. Or I went to a music festival and I heard people singing. Or I heard this new band at a music festival. Listen is the action. So I went to a music festival and heard a band that I really liked. When I got home, I downloaded their music and listened to it, the action of listening to something. So I often hear students say, I can't listen you. or can you listen me? And what they mean is hear. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Listen is the action of doing something. So you would say, I wasn't listening, or I am listening. I am actively listening to you. But here is something is happening, and you are either partaking in what's happening, you are either there for what's happening, or you are not. So can you hear me? Yes, I can. I am here. I am part of this event, and I can hear the sounds going into my ears. Amount and number. So again, these mean the same thing. It's a quantity. Amount is used with uncountable nouns, and number is used with countable nouns. So uncountable nouns, water. The amount of water in my house is alarming. A number is used with countable. The number of ducks swimming in my house is shocking. The amount of strength I have is very high, but the number of kilos I can lift is very low. So countable noun, we use number, and uncountable noun, we use amount. Picture, image, and photo. I think this is similar to say, talk, and speak because they all mean exactly the same thing. It's something you can physically see. You're not there in person, but you're looking at it on a piece of paper, on a phone, on a digital item. A photo suggests someone has taken this. So if I go on holiday and I take a photo of the view and I show you, that is a photo. I have taken that on a camera and I am showing you. A picture is a bit broader, a bit more open than photo. So a photo is only taken on a camera by someone. A picture can be paintings, a photo, drawings, a graph, and an image is even broader still. An image can be anything that we can see and interpret. So whilst it covers photo and picture, it also covers digital things that we can see. So if I download a picture of a cat off the internet, I couldn't say that's a photo, but I could say it's a picture of a cat or an image of a cat. We can also use the word image to describe someone's likeness to something else. So you are the spitting image of your mum or your dad. You and your brother look exactly the same. It's a spitting image. Spitting image is an idiom we use to mean two people look exactly the same or two things look exactly the same. So, of course, me and my brother are physical people. We are not a photo or a picture, but you're saying we look the same, we have the same image. The Cambridge English Dictionary definition of the word image is a picture in your mind or an idea of how someone or something is. So it doesn't necessarily have to be something you see, but it creates an image, it creates a vision in your mind of something or someone. So photo, most basic one, it only discusses one thing. Picture, it discusses a photo and drawings. Image discusses both of these, a photo, a picture, and also digital or physical things as well. Now, the next two, learn and study, can be used in exactly the same way, but there is a slightly different meaning. So when you study something, you do not yet know it. This is new information to you. You go to study at university, you study English, you study Spanish. It's something you don't know yet and you're gaining new information. Whereas learning something suggests you are adding this information to your knowledge bank, to the knowledge you have in your brain. So with study, the focus is on it's something new. And learn, it just means I'm adding more things to my knowledge, to my skill set. But we can technically use them the same. He learned about computers at school. He studied computers at school. She learned how to speak 7 languages. She studied 7 languages. Of course, I'm talking in the past tense here, but she learned 7 languages. The focus is on her gaining that information and adding that information to her skills, Whereas she studied 7 languages, the focus is on something she didn't know previously and now she does. Now she can speak 7 languages. But as I said, we can use them the same. So realistically, you're not going to get this one wrong if you say I learned something or I studied something. And last one today, realize and understand. Now, again, these are very, very similar in meaning and you can use them very similarly. I realized I had forgotten my homework. I suddenly understood I had forgotten my homework. Or I understand this concept. I now realize how to do this concept. The only difference is realize focuses on the fact that you didn't know or you were not aware of something before. It's like this light bulb moment. I was explaining something to a student and then they realized what I was talking about. It's like the moment they suddenly understand. Whereas understand is just you understand or you do not understand. So for example, her accent was hard to understand, but you wouldn't say her accent was hard to realize. His English level was difficult to understand. You wouldn't say his English level was difficult to realize, but you would say, after speaking to him for a long time, I suddenly realized how to understand his English level or her accent. I realized after 20 minutes of talking to her what she was trying to say, how to understand her accent. So realize is this moment of understanding, and understand is just I do understand or I do not understand. Another good example for this is when something surprising happens in your life. Like let's say, for example, you are late to your English lesson and you say to your teacher, I'm so sorry, I was feeding my dog and I suddenly understood I was late. This is not correct, because it's this moment that you understood, so you need to use the word realize. I'm so sorry I'm late. I was feeding my dog and I suddenly realized I was late for the class. This moment of clarity, this moment of understanding. So that is all for today. I think this kind of video is a little confusing because there's no pattern to any of these words. They are just words that I have noticed people mix up sometimes and get confused about, and they are words that I get asked often about as a teacher. So if you have other English words that are very similar in meaning and you can't quite understand how to use them, or maybe you always mix them up, or maybe someone has given you feedback that you're not using them correctly, let me know down below in the comments, and if there are enough suggestions, I will create another video on words that have very similar meanings. So as always, thank you for your support. Like the video if you have not already, and I will see you in our next one. Goodbye.